gonna give you 4 of the best concepts and ideas that you can utilize to increase your squat as fast as possible. And we're gonna start right now. Okay, so when we're talking about the back squat, and I know in the intro I said squat, I meant to say back squat, okay, because a lot of you will say, oh, what about front squat? And some of these movements or some of these concepts you can use to increase your front squat as well. But first, we have to recognize the differences in the back squat, okay? So if we do a high bar back squat, I'm gonna place it a little bit higher up on my traps. I prefer elbows like just under, maybe slightly back, feet a little bit wider than shoulder width apart. My toes are gonna be pointing out, okay? So I'm gonna control the eccentric, get a little bounce and come up as rigid as I can with that upright trunk, okay? One more. Okay, so the second movement that we're gonna utilize to identify a back squat is going to be a low bar back squat, which only heathens, just kidding, because I do sometimes. So we're gonna do a low bar back squat, so a little bit, almost like where your rear delts and shoulder blades come across. And we're gonna we're gonna go a little bit wider, and my heels are gonna be out a little bit more than they were on the low bar, okay? So I'm gonna go here and back up, or I could even, if I have the mobility in my hips, full range of motion, okay? But I don't mind a low bar here. Oh. Same upright posture, driving that chest up. And I like to think, drive your sternum up, okay? That helps keep you a little bit more rigid. And now we're gonna go into those 4 key concepts to increase your back squat. And I'm still out of breath from the video that we filmed 20 minutes ago, so bear with me. Okay, so that first thing that you can do to increase your squat as fast as possible. So let's play the game. Today's a Tuesday, and I have to max my back squat next Sunday. So 5 days from now, 6 days from now, okay? So I got 6 days to increase my squat as quickly as possible. And I'm a high bar back squatter who squats ass to grass. Okay, the biggest thing that I can do initially is cheat, okay? So I can actually, just like I said the heathens, just like the heathens that do sumo deadlift now, we can cheat and arrange the test just like Jean-Luc Picard to fit our model, okay? So if we have somebody who has longer limbs like myself and I squat high bar ass to grass, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go low bar, partial range of motion. So even the low bar squatters that do a full range, they could benefit from doing a low bar with a shallow range, okay? So just around 90. So if I have 6 days and I'm a high bar back squatter, that first key concept is using that little cheat method. I'm gonna go a little bit wider, okay? I've got the low bar here, so it's even more over my hips. And I'm gonna go just to about 90 and back up, okay? Just to about 90, back up, okay? So low bar, shallow depth. So if I'm doing a test and I want to increase my squat as fast as possible, low bar to 90 degrees, just below 90 degrees with a little bit wider stance. Okay, so the next method, I'm gonna share a little story with you. When my first son was born, Lincoln, okay, he was born in 2011, okay? My front squat was horrific. I was pathetic. I judged myself as this horrible human being because my front squat was so bad. So what I did is I actually met with one of my strength coaches, Dan Maroney, who still works with us here at Garage Strength. And what we decided was I'm gonna front squat every single day for 2 years straight. Every single day, 2 years straight. So my front squat went from about 165 kilos to 212 kilos, okay? But that was from front squatting every single day. 100-pound freaking increase just from squatting every single day. So what that means is, if you're trying to increase your squat as quickly as possible, and using that scenario, let's say I have 6 days, or I have 12 days, or I have 20 days to go to a test and increase the performance in my back squat, what we need to do is squat daily, okay? So increase the volume, and what happens is then you start to find your groove, you start to find speed, you start to find different points in your movement that you can work on because you're starting to feel it more repetitively. You're looking at the squat as a technical movement. So if I squat high bar, or I squat low bar, now that doesn't mean that I have to squat to a max every single day. What it means is some days you might come in and do 4 doubles. The next day you might do 1 set of 5. And then if you start to feel good on that third day, you can push it to a heavy single or a heavy double, depending on how you're feeling. And so you can play around with that. But what happens is when you add that volume in you find the groove, you find the technique, you find the speed, you start to feel a little bit more zeroed in on your movement, and that increases that overall max back squat. Okay, so the next method that we're gonna utilize is the variation contrast method. Okay, so the variation contrast method, and this is something after we describe it, that you can do micro or you can do macro. Okay, so what does this mean? So a variation might be of the back squat. I'm gonna do a high bar after grass could mean I'm gonna do a pause and drive up. Okay, so that's one form of a variation. Another variation could be double bounce up. Okay, so we might do a variation of a squat first. So in the micro setup, it would be day one, we're gonna do pause back squat for 5 sets. 5 doubles, pause back squat. The contrast would be in that same day on day one, we're gonna do a back squat that's normal, okay? So we're gonna do 5 sets of the variation, 1 or 2 sets. This is the contrast method here. 1 or 2 sets of the traditional actual high bar back squat. Now on a macro perspective, this might be day one, we're gonna do pause back squat. Day 2, we're gonna do double bounce. Day 3, we might do pin squats. And then day 4, normal back squats. So we're doing it with higher volume, but we're also utilizing the variation contrast method. You can utilize these movements to increase positions that you might struggle with. So if you go high volume, you'll find where you're struggling in different positions. You might collapse forward, whatever. That's when you can put in a pin squat, a box squat, a safety bar squat, a Duffalo bar squat, whatever you want, and that's gonna help you. So utilize the variation contrast method as that third key to increase your squat as quickly as possible. Before we go into that fourth key factor, and one of the main factors that's gonna blow your squat up, if your squat sucks, you can't increase it, you can't hit new PRs, you're struggling over and over again, that weight goes on your back and you just wanna crumble into a pile of dust. Pick up our big squat program. You can click on the link down below, head over to garagestrength.com and start making those squat gains today. Okay, so now we're using that example. We've got a test coming up for a big back squat. We're trying to hit that monster PR. The best thing that you can do is to get used to squatting heavy. Okay, so if the test is to squat to a max, what you can do is you can actually squat up to 90, 95, 100% on specific days of the week. And some of the things that I like to do, because I tend to be a little bit lazy, is I might do 5 singles at 90 to 95% or 5 doubles at 90%. And that over time is going to push my maximum back squat. But what happens is I get used to the position with that heavier load. I get used to the feeling with that heavier load. I get used to the speed that I need to have with that heavier load. And then when I feel good, when I come in and I'm warming up and I can just tell I'm a little bit more juiced up, my nervous system's firing a little bit better, I got better sleep the night before. Now I can start to push that a bit better. This is something that we utilized with our throwers this past fall, where we've had over 5 guys back squat well over 250 kilos and multiple guys back squat over 600 pounds. So utilize that concept once, twice, maybe 3 times a week, pushing that squat a little bit heavy, but be aware that this is when you could get banged up. This is when you could get fatigued. This is when you could have some knee issues. So make sure that you're actually taking care of your mobility and you're actually monitoring how you feel on a day-to-day basis. But ultimately, if the test is squatting heavy, you have to figure out which technique that you need: low bar, high bar, shallow squat, deep squat, and which technique you can utilize to get into that groove. You can use a variation contrast method. You can increase that volume, or you can just undulate back and forth between higher volume and squatting heavier. And that's the key. Those are 4 key factors to increasing your squat as quickly as possible. Again, if you struggle with squatting, your squat blows, go to garagestrength.com. You can pick up our big squat program. Until next time, guys, peace.